I, 28F, recently discovered that my sister Karen, 32F, has been stealing money from our family business for years. This isn't just about money though, it's about years of manipulation and lies that have completely destroyed what I thought was an unbreakable sibling bond. Our parents started their restaurant business before either of us was born. They bought a small failing diner in 1990 and turned it into one of the most successful restaurants in our city. Mom was an amazing chef, and Dad handled the business side. They worked incredibly hard, often pulling 16-hour days, to build something from nothing. Growing up, Karen and I basically lived at the restaurant. We did our homework in the back office, helped with small tasks, and learned every aspect of the business. Karen started working at the restaurant full-time right after high school. She didn't want to go to college and said the restaurant was her passion. I took a different path and went to college to study business management. My parents supported both our choices equally. Dad always said the restaurant would be both of ours someday, and we could decide together how to run it. Everything changed in 2019 when our parents died in a car accident. They were driving home from a restaurant supplier meeting when a drunk driver hit them. It was devastating. Karen and I only had each other left. According to their will, we were supposed to inherit the restaurant equally and run it together. At the time, I was in my final year of my MBA program. Karen had been managing the restaurant with our parents for almost 8 years by then. The initial months after their death were chaos. I was trying to finish my degree while dealing with grief and all the legal paperwork. Karen stepped up and took charge of running the restaurant. She knew all the staff, suppliers, and regular customers. She told me not to worry about anything and focus on finishing my degree. She said she'd handle everything and make sure my share of the profits was sent to me regularly. Looking back, I can see how she manipulated me from the start. She knew I was overwhelmed with grief in school, and she used that to take control. She started sending me monthly payments that she claimed were my share of the profits. The amount seemed reasonable, about $8,000 per month, based on what I knew about the restaurant's previous earnings. I trusted her completely and never questioned it. After graduating, I got a job offer from a consulting firm. When I told Karen the first was thinking about working at the restaurant instead, she convinced me to take the consulting job. She said she had everything under control, the staff was used to her management style, and changing things might disrupt the business. She assured me I could still be involved in major decisions while earning good money from both my job and the restaurant. It made sense at the time, and I trusted my big sister. For 4 years, everything seemed fine. The restaurant appeared to be doing well, I was getting my monthly payments, and Karen and I had dinner together every Sunday. She would tell me about the restaurant but always kept things vague, saying she didn't want to bore me with the details. She drove a new Mercedes and took luxury vacations, but I assumed she could afford it because the restaurant was doing well and she was working so hard. Everything fell apart last month when I ran into Marco, 35M, our former head chef. He had worked at the restaurant for 12 years before quitting last year. We bumped into each other at a farmer's market, and he asked me why I had sold my share of the restaurant to Karen for such a low price. I was completely confused because I had never sold my share. Marco looked equally confused and told me that Karen had told everyone I had sold my share to her 2 years ago because I wasn't interested in the family business. I started investigating immediately. I contacted our family's accountant, but he said Karen had switched to a different firm 2 years ago. I hired a forensic accountant who discovered that Karen had been manipulating the books from the start. The restaurant was actually making around $800,000 in annual profit, but she was only reporting half of that. The monthly payments she was sending me were less than a quarter of what I should have been getting. The forensic accountant also found forged documents that made it appear I had sold my share to Karen for $200,000 2 years ago. She had forged my signature and even created fake bank transfers to support the story. I never received any money, she just created a paper trail to make it look like I had. When I confronted her with all this evidence, she didn't even try to deny it. She broke down crying and said she felt she deserved more of the inheritance because she had dedicated her life to the restaurant while I went to college. She said she resented that I got an equal share when she had worked there for years before our parents died. She admitted to stealing money for years and using it to fund her lifestyle, the Mercedes, designer clothes, luxury vacations, and even a beach house I didn't know about. I was devastated. This wasn't just about the money, it was about years of systematic betrayal from my only remaining family member. She hadn't just stolen from me, she had manipulated me and lied to my face every single Sunday for 4 years. Every time she hugged me goodbye after our dinners, she knew she was stealing from me. I immediately contacted a lawyer and filed a lawsuit. When word got out about what Karen had done, our family split into 2 camps. Our aunt and uncle sided with Karen, saying that blood is thicker than water and I should forgive her because she's the only immediate family I have left. They argued that she had worked harder at the restaurant and deserved more. Our cousin supported me, saying what she did was criminal, and I had every right to pursue legal action. Karen has been alternating between apologizing and attacking me. She shows up at my apartment crying, saying she'll lose everything if I go through with the lawsuit. Then she sends angry texts saying I'm destroying our family and our parents would be ashamed of me for suing my own sister. I've blocked her number and told all family members that I don't want to hear anything about her. I know some people think I'm being too harsh, but I can't forgive this level of betrayal. This wasn't a one-time mistake, it was years of calculated deception from someone I trusted completely. Am I the asshole for pursuing legal action against my own sister? Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone for their support on my original post. Things have gotten significantly worse since then, and the true extent of Karen's deception goes far beyond what I initially discovered. After I filed the lawsuit, my lawyer hired a team to do a complete audit of the restaurant's finances. What they uncovered was shocking and disturbing. Karen hadn't just been stealing money, she had turned our family restaurant into a front for an illegal gambling operation. For the past 3 years, she had been running high-stakes poker games in the restaurant's basement after hours. Our parents had renovated the basement years ago, turning it into a beautiful wine cellar. Karen had converted part of it into a hidden poker room. She kept the wine racks at the front to maintain appearances, but behind them was a fully equipped gambling den with professional poker tables, surveillance cameras, and a full bar. The financial records showed that these poker games were bringing in more money than the restaurant itself. On busy nights, players would bet hundreds of thousands of dollars. Karen was taking a percentage of every pot, plus charging wealthy players for private tables and expensive alcohol. All of this cash was being laundered through the restaurant's books. What makes this even more disturbing is that our Uncle Rick, 55M, who had been defending Karen and pressuring me to drop the lawsuit, was actually her partner in this operation. He had helped her set everything up 3 years ago and was taking 30% of the gambling profits. This explained why he was so adamant about me dropping the lawsuit. He wasn't just protecting Karen, he was protecting himself. The investigation revealed a complex web of corruption. Karen and Uncle Rick had been paying off local officials to look the other way. They had a monthly payroll that included 2 police officers, a health inspector, and even a city council member. They used some of the stolen inheritance money to fund these bribes, which typically ranged from $2,000 to $5,000 per month per person. Most shocking of all was discovering that our restaurant's liquor license had been suspended 6 months ago due to violations, but Karen had bribed officials to keep operating. She was serving alcohol illegally all this time, putting the entire business at risk. If there had been any incidents, we could have lost everything. The gambling operation explained so many things that had puzzled me. Now I understand why Karen was so desperate to keep me from becoming involved in the restaurant's operations. It explains why she switched accountants and why she always made excuses when I wanted to visit the restaurant during off hours. She claimed she was doing inventory or deep cleaning, but really she was setting up for poker nights. When all this information came to light, our family dynamics shifted dramatically. Most relatives who had been supporting Karen suddenly went silent. Our Aunt Linda, who had been calling me daily to convince me to drop the lawsuit, was horrified when she found out about the gambling operation. She had no idea her husband, Uncle Rick, was involved. She hasn't spoken to either of them since finding out. My lawyer immediately took this information to the police. Now Karen and Uncle Rick are both under criminal investigation for running an illegal gambling operation, money laundering, bribing officials, and serving alcohol without a license. The police have also started investigating the corrupt officials who took bribes. Karen tried to pin everything on Uncle Rick. She claimed he had manipulated her into starting the gambling operation, saying he threatened to reveal her theft of my inheritance if she didn't cooperate. But security camera footage from the poker room shows her clearly in charge, handling money and giving orders. The staff who worked these events have also confirmed she was the boss. Yesterday, Karen's lawyer reached out with a settlement offer. She offered to confess to everything and give me full control of the restaurant if I would agree not to testify against her in the criminal case. When I refused, she started making threats. She claims to have evidence of our late father's affair and says she'll release it to the media if I don't drop the charges. According to Karen, our father had a long-term affair that resulted in a child, and she has proof. She says releasing this information would destroy his reputation and tarnish the restaurant's image, which is built partly on our parents' love story. I don't know if she's bluffing about the affair, but I'm not backing down. I've told her lawyer that no amount of threats will make me withdraw the charges. Some family members are still pushing me to handle this privately, saying a criminal case will bring shame to the entire family. But I can't ignore the magnitude of what Karen and Uncle Rick have done. They didn't just steal my inheritance, they turned our parents' legacy into a criminal enterprise. The restaurant where we grew up, where our parents worked so hard to build something legitimate and meaningful, was being used for illegal gambling and money laundering. I've stopped answering calls from family members I don't completely trust. My lawyer advised me to be careful about what I say to anyone, as Karen might try to use my words against me. I'm focusing on cooperating with the police investigation and trying to save what's left of the restaurant's reputation. The restaurant is currently closed while the investigation is ongoing, and I'm paying the staff from my own savings to ensure they don't suffer because of Karen's actions. I'll update again when there are significant developments. Right now, I'm just trying to process the fact that my sister's betrayal goes so much deeper than I initially thought. Update 2: The situation has become even more complicated since my last update. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more shocking, life proved me wrong. Last week, I received an unexpected email from a woman named Sarah, 29F, claiming to be our half-sister. She had heard about the lawsuit and the restaurant situation through mutual acquaintances in the restaurant industry. In her email, she attached DNA test results and several old photographs of our father with her mother, dating back to the early 1990s. I met Sarah at a coffee shop, and she told me everything. Her mother had worked as a supplier for our restaurant in the early years. She and our father had a 2-year affair that ended when her mother moved to a different state after getting pregnant. According to Sarah, our father had paid child support quietly for years but never wanted to be part of her life. He was afraid of losing our mother and destroying the family. The most disturbing part was learning that Karen had known about Sarah for years. Apparently, she discovered some old letters and documents in our father's office after his death. Instead of sharing this information with me, she had used it to her advantage. Sarah revealed that Karen had tracked her down 2 years ago and offered her $50,000 to stay quiet about her existence. Sarah had refused the money and cut off contact with Karen. This revelation shed new light on Karen's behavior before our parents' death. Sarah showed me emails where Karen had been blackmailing our father with this information. She had threatened to tell Mom about Sarah unless he gave her more control over the restaurant. This explained why our father had suddenly started giving Karen more responsibilities and authority in the years before his death, despite his previous insistence on equal treatment between us. The truth about Sarah has caused another wave of chaos in our family. Our Aunt Linda, who had already stopped speaking to Uncle Rick over the gambling operation, is now furious about everyone who knew about Sarah and kept it secret. Some relatives are angry at our late father for his infidelity, while others are more furious at Karen for using this information for blackmail. Meanwhile, the police investigation into the gambling operation has uncovered even more disturbing connections. They found evidence that Uncle Rick wasn't just running poker games, he had connections to organized crime. The investigators discovered that some of the high-stakes players at our restaurant's poker games were members of a known criminal organization. They had been using our restaurant to launder money from their other illegal operations. Karen is now claiming she had no knowledge of Uncle Rick's mob connections. She says she thought they were just wealthy businessmen who enjoyed gambling. But the investigators found text messages between Karen and Uncle Rick discussing specific players and their criminal backgrounds. They also found records of Karen personally handling large cash transactions with these individuals. The restaurant's reputation has taken a serious hit. Local news outlets have picked up the story, and we've been getting negative attention. Some of our long-term employees have quit, not wanting to be associated with a business involved in criminal activities. I've been trying to distance myself from Karen and Uncle Rick's actions, but it's challenging when every news story mentions our family connection. Sarah has been surprisingly understanding about everything. Unlike Karen, she doesn't want any money or stake in the restaurant. She simply wanted to know her biological family and thought this was the right time to come forward, given that Karen was using her existence as leverage. We've started meeting regularly for coffee, and I'm slowly getting to know her. It's strange to think I had a sister out there all these years while the one I grew up with was betraying me. The criminal investigation is moving forward. The prosecutors have offered Karen and Uncle Rick plea deals, but neither has accepted yet. Karen's lawyer keeps trying to contact me about reaching some kind of agreement, but I've made it clear that I won't interfere with the criminal prosecution. Her actions went far beyond stealing my inheritance. She used our parents' legacy to facilitate criminal activities while blackmailing our father and hiding our half-sister's existence. I'm meeting with business brokers next week to discuss selling the restaurant. Even if we manage to salvage its reputation, I don't think I can walk through those doors without thinking about all the lies and betrayal. Sarah supports my decision to sell, saying it might be the best way to make a clean break from everything that's happened. I'll update again when there are more developments, but right now I'm focused on moving forward and getting to know the sister who turns out to be more honest and caring than the one I grew up with. Update 3: The final chapter of this nightmare has finally come to a close, and the outcome is both satisfying and heartbreaking. After weeks of negotiation, both Karen and Uncle Rick accepted plea deals. Karen will serve 2 years in prison for fraud, money laundering, and running an illegal gambling operation. She also has to pay $1.2 million in restitution, which includes my stolen inheritance plus penalties. Uncle Rick got 5 years due to his mob connections and previous criminal record that none of us knew about. 3 local officials who were involved in the bribery scheme also pleaded guilty and lost their positions. The day before she had to report to prison, Karen made one final attempt to reconcile. She showed up at my apartment with a thick envelope. Inside was a 15-page handwritten letter explaining how everything started. According to her, she began stealing small amounts shortly after our parents died, convinced that she deserved more because she had worked at the restaurant longer. When Uncle Rick discovered her theft, instead of exposing her, he suggested the gambling operation as a way to make even more money. She wrote about how each small decision led to bigger crimes until she felt trapped in a web of lies. She said she kept me away from the restaurant because she couldn't bear to face me while stealing from me. The letter ended with her begging for forgiveness, saying prison had made her realize the magnitude of her mistakes. She also included documents showing she had been blackmailing our father with evidence of Sarah's existence, along with an apology for using our half-sister as leverage. I read the letter but couldn't bring myself to forgive her. The systematic way she betrayed me, blackmailed our father, and corrupted our parents' legacy was too much to overcome. I returned the letter to her without responding and asked her not to contact me again after her release. The restaurant has been sold to a restaurant group that owns several successful establishments in the city. They are keeping most of the staff but changing the name and concept. I couldn't keep running it, there were too many painful memories in those walls. The sale price was good, and after paying off all debts and legal fees, I still have enough to start fresh. Sarah and I have grown closer over these months. We meet weekly for coffee, and she's introduced me to her husband and 2 kids. It's strange how life works. I lost the sister I grew up with but gained another who has shown more integrity and kindness than Karen ever did. Sarah even helped me pack up our parents' old photos and mementos from the restaurant, sharing stories about the few times she had secretly visited the restaurant just to see our father from afar. Our Aunt Linda divorced Uncle Rick after discovering he had been involved in criminal activities throughout their entire marriage. She's been incredibly supportive of my decision to cut ties with Karen and has become something of a mother figure to both me and Sarah. Most of our extended family has cut contact with Karen and Uncle Rick. The few relatives who still support Karen have also been cut from my life. I've made it clear to everyone that I don't want updates about Karen's life in prison or after her release. Some might call it harsh, but after everything she's done, I believe it's the only way I can move forward. I'm using some of the money from the restaurant sale to open a small cafe in a different part of the city. Sarah has been helping me with the business plan, and this time I'll be running everything myself. It won't be anything as grand as our parents' restaurant, but it will be honest and completely my own. This will be my final update. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this difficult time. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born with.